Yo, what is up guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we've got another review on the team of the season, Tanguy Ndombele. We're going to go through the card's details, stats, clips and summary. Before we get into all of that, if I can ask you guys to please hit that like button, hit the subscribe button and that bell so you know when I upload, and comment down below what your thoughts are on this card and if you're going to grab it. And now, let's get into the review. So guys, this is the team that I played, Tanguy Ndombele, and I played them in two spots, in the cam spot and in the DM spot. And for me guys, my first impression of this card, I like this card. I think it's a solid card. I don't think he's particularly overwhelming. I don't think he's particularly underwhelming. I just think he's a very good card. And actually guys, I preferred him in the cam spot. I think ideally actually his perfect spot is a CM spot, as a player that goes in between defense and attack very well. He's able to do both elements very well. So I do feel like this card is very good. Getting into the card himself, Tanguy Ndombele, 5'11", medium work rate, right footed, 4-star skill moves, 3-star weak foot, 7 games played, no goals scored, and 4 assists. Now guys, the first thing I will bring your attention to is the medium work rates. For some reason, I don't know what it is about these medium work rates this year. He feels very lazy in defense at times, especially in that DM spot. He doesn't really move around actively and try to help out in the defending areas. That can lead you to feeling exposed with this guy at DM, and it's why I feel like central midfield or cam is a better spot for this card, because you can't have that carrying that burden, especially in the midfield where you need someone dynamic and able to do it all. In terms of the assists and goals guys, I think that's a little unfair to him as well. I think he should have had more assists and more goals as well. It just was unfortunate finishing or passing on my part that didn't get him there. But I think guys, he did really well for me. The 3-star weak foot is a bit of a con as well. Would have liked that to be 4, but overall guys, it's still very well-rounded, solid card. In terms of the player details guys, of course I put a shadow on him. Now of course the shadow doesn't help him in the attacking sense, but he was very good in the attacking sense. So in the defending sense, I helped him out with the shadow just to see how that would do with him. And overall guys, I think it did a really good job, even despite the work rate issue. In terms of the attribute details guys, the key pros of this card, the 91 acceleration is actually very good, and he has a very good burst off the mark. Combine that with the dribbling that he has, which is solid in all departments, 94 dribbling there, and you guys can see the stats, they're all fantastic. I think this card is really great. And in terms of the passing as well, his passing range is phenomenal guys. He picks out balls so easily, and you'll see that in some of the clips when we go to them. Really nice to have that as well. In terms of shooting guys, he hits the ball very hard, however it's not super accurate, and that's kind of a con of this card as well, as the finishing is quite poor. The final pro we'll get into just before we move to the cons is that his physicality and some of his defending stats are very good. However, this is offset by some of the other stuff that he isn't so good at either, which leads us into the cons guys. The first one we're going to mention is the sprint speed. I do feel like that you need a higher sprint speed, especially for a TOTS card coming out this time of the year. You want a higher sprint speed in the central midfield. I think this Tanguy Ndombele is very good, but a little helping hand there will help him tremendously. His finishing, of course, as I previously mentioned, is a big con. Now, depending on where you're going to play him will affect what chemistry style you put on him. If you play him deeper, you will put the shadow on him. You won't need to boost the finishing as much. If you're going to play him further up the pitch in the cam spot, you do need to boost that finishing. You won't be able to take chances that easily if you do not. The other thing I want to say about this card that guys you do need to boost is his defending. If you're going to put him deeper, I think you could boost his defensive awareness a little more than his tackling. I feel like his tackling is pretty solid as well as his interceptions. If you put that defensive awareness up, he'll at least position himself a little better with those work rates in play. The one thing I would say though guys is that going against that is that his strength is phenomenal, so you really don't have that much to worry about in terms of when you're competing shoulder to shoulder with players. It's just getting him in the right spot. That's really where the problems lie. In terms of player traits, he's got the flair trait, outside of the foot shot, and the technical dribbler, all great traits to have in a midfielder. I would have liked the playmaker trait as well, but not going to complain too much there. And now that we've covered that, let's get into some of the clips that I got with him. So guys, getting into some of Tanguy Ndombele's clips, and what you guys are going to see is the general all-round capability of this guy in the midfield. Now the first thing I want to get into guys is his pace. Now this is kind of twofold in that Tanguy Ndombele's burst is crazy good. I feel like he moves really well and transitions really well. However, on the flip side of that, he has quite poor sprint speed. So what that means is that once you get off the mark and you're getting going, people will generally catch up with you, and you need to keep the ball moving with this card. In terms of keeping the ball moving, getting into the next part of it, that would talk about his passing. His passing range is phenomenal. Long and short passing, as you guys can see right there, is fantastic. He really can play the ball well. And easily as well. And I think my favorite thing about his game was actually the link-up play. Just the little 1-2 passes, spraying the ball around, all those elements he was very good at. And I feel like that was probably the best thing about this card compared to all the other stats in there. Which leads me into the dribbling. Now guys, his dribbling is good. please don't misunderstand me, but what I think about his dribbling is that it's a little bit affected by his body type, in that whilst he is very quick and good off the mark and very smooth on the dribbling as well, guys, you guys can see a number of smooth dribbling animations, he does feel like he's slowed down a little bit by his frame, by his size and stockiness. Now that does of course come with its perks, but I feel like of course if he was a more slight body type he would do a little better. Leading on to the physicality and strength, guys, he is tremendously strong and really capable in that midfield. I do feel like he's able to hold his own against anyone, especially power-wise in that midfield. His defending is a little bit lacking, guys. However, I would say with the right chemistry style, and depending on where you're going to play him, actually, that's what you'll need to focus on. So if you're playing him further up, defending isn't so much of an issue. If we get into what is the two problem areas, which are his shooting and particularly his finishing. His shot power is good, but his finishing is really poor, guys. So if you're going to play him further up, you will need to fix that about his shooting. It is very inconsistent. And finally, the last thing is his work rates. Now, guys, his work rates really affected him deep for me, and I actually preferred him further up because I felt like I was carrying a burden a lot of the time when he was in that midfield. If you have control of him, it's fine, but when you're trying to get him to just cut out space without having to actually control him, it's very difficult to use this card. He does let the attacks go by a lot. In this final clip, guys, you're just going to see more of the same. Another lovely pass and set up there for a goal scoring opportunity. Unlucky not to put it away. So guys, getting to this final Tanguy Ndombele summary, 390k on the PlayStation, 364 on the Xbox, and 360 on the PC. Now guys, these are very volatile prices right now, so please do bear that in mind. We will only briefly look at the price as a comparison to others, but just bear in mind that these will drop hard during the week. In terms of the stats, guys, of course he's got fantastic dribbling, a little bit affected by his body type, but nevertheless still very good. His passing range is phenomenal, guys, really great link-up player, and decent burst off the mark as well, tremendous physicality. The cons of it, finishing is a little poor, his sprint speed does allow other players to get back at him, and his defending, if you're going to play him deeper, does need a helping hand as well. And that really leads into the chemistry style recommendations, which is depending on where you're going to play him, that is the chemistry style you should put on him. If you're going to play him further back, then of course a shadow may be one of the better ways to go. You could of course go with an anchor as well, just to help out his physicality even more. You could even go with another type of chemistry style which boosts more on his defensive awareness, and that would be where I'd be tempted to go, especially with this card. Given that he has good acceleration, especially deep in that midfield, you'll be able to burst either way, and you won't have to focus as much on the pace element, but rather you can focus on his defensive awareness and make sure his positioning is on point. If you're going to play him further forward, guys, you will need to boost again, maybe the pace this time and the finishing, of course. The Hunter may be the best way to go with that, just to bring the finishing up and really give him elite pace in terms of being able to drive past anyone that you want to be able to. In terms of similar players, guys, I actually think that Curtis Jones is a good shout, Adrian Rabiot as well. Those kind of players, that kind of mold, where he's very good at everything, not particularly amazing at defending, but decent at defending, able to do a job there, and can certainly compare against a lot of these players in terms of capability. Maybe similar again to Leon Goretzka. Maybe doesn't have the size element, but certainly does have the strength and sturdiness of those cards. Getting into the linkability, guys, of course, got perfect links to Hugo Lloris and Sissoko, the road to the final card. Strong links to all the French icons, as well as French players in the Premier League and other Spurs players too. So really nice linkability in there as well, guys. Some really great options to put together with this card. In terms of the price, guys, he currently sits just in amongst all these icons. I do feel like that this price is actually a very good price, and if you look further down, Moussa Sissoko sitting at 332. It's not that much difference, and for let's say 700k there, you can get just over 700k. You can get the two of them together in your midfield, a very solid midfield partnership actually, and those two will work very well in tandem. I would recommend putting him with someone a little more defensive, which leads me into my final recommendation, guys, about whether I think this card is worth that price. I do feel like this card is a good card. I don't feel like he's quite worth 390. When the price does drop below 300k, I would say then this card is worth it, and the price will inevitably get to that point, guys. The pull rate is really high on these cards, and there's just going to be more and more packs, especially with this being the first team of the season. People are going to open packs on this one, and the price will come down drastically even as the weeks go on and other team of the seasons are released. So just wait for this card to come down in price and then pick it up and put him in your squad. Hope you guys did enjoy this review. If you did, please do smash that like button. Until next time, I will see you all in a bit.